And we are back on the build phase. I'm Mr. Ben. It feels like it's been a year since we've done many card unboxing videos. Hasn't been a lot of verses in 2022, and hopefully that's going to change in 2023. But here before me, I have two-thirds of this year's versus product. Ooh, my gain looks a little high. Let's turn that down. And we are going to take as long as it takes to open and react to all these cards. Some of these I've seen spoilers for, some of them I've seen floating around on Facebook and Discord, but for the most part, I'm going to be coming at these as blind as somebody who's just opening the boxes. Like, I know they didn't reveal every card, that kind of stuff. So we're going to take these in chronological in release order. I guess for anybody who doesn't remember, this was basically our entire year of versus cards. Yes, there was also crossover, but this was supposed to come out in 2021. So I don't think that counts as a 2022 set of versus cards, which means this is what we got. Uh, we already did, I already did a show opening up the WandaVision cards. So today we're going to go through the second and third release of 2022 stuff, starting with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, that is a mouthful for an expansion. I know that's what the name of the show was. I get every reason why this is the name, but oh my goodness. I have seen a few of these cards, and the size of this logo is just egregious. Okay, before we get into the cards, though, we're going to take a quick little look at the instruction book. So, this is part of the Disney Plus arc. This is where we get introduced to the super soldier serums and the super soldier combination of keywords, combining three keywords to essentially create one keyword. I guess we're at that point of the game's life cycle. The rest of this looks like it's character specific stuff. So if we have questions about how various cards work, we'll come back to this. Shout out here, patron of the show, uh, Team Buckeye in the playtesters. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's set this stuff aside and let's dig into some of these cards. So we're going to start with a Falcon level 1. He has flight and is a 2/5/5. 2/5/5 is not a great stat block. It's not like the worst stat block, but it's not fantastic. Air superiority, characters with flight can't strike him. So if you're playing a main character that has flight and you're playing a deck that has a lot of flight in it, that could be a real problem for this guy since, or not for this guy. That could be a real problem for you since this guy can't be struck by flyers. That said, if it's a format that's kind of photo based, there isn't a lot of flying in photo. So how useful is this going to be? I guess it kind of depends on the format and what's good in the format. It could be a very impactful keyword, especially if it's a main character that needs to like get stuns or declare attacks. Well, wait, can you attack? Yeah, so you could still attack even if you have flight. You just can't strike him. That could be a very impactful keyword. In the sky, when Falcon attacks an enemy character with flight, he gains 1 XP. Oh my goodness. Wow. So his this is going to be rough. So imagine I'm sitting across the table from this main character, and I look at my hand of cards, and I have the choice between playing a character that has flight and a character that doesn't have flight. And I look, oh, my character that has flight can't hit this guy. Ooh, that's not good. And then I look, oh, he has to hit characters with flight in order to gain XP. That's not. So why would you ever, if your main character doesn't have flight, why would you ever play a flyer into this guy? Like ever. Uh, of course, there's going to be edge cases where the only thing you have in your hand is a character that has flight, and it's like choosing between that and just straight up dying. You have to have a recruit. Skipping recruits to control your opponent's level up condition maybe isn't the best way to play the game, but this level up puts so much control into the opponent's hands. It's going to be tough. I predict like casual kitchen table games. I think this is a totally fine condition. You know, everybody just brings whatever they built. But any meta where this guy's playable, people are going to be looking at what is playable within that meta. And if you like, oh, hey, there's my earlier example of these are the cards that are in my hand, even before you make that decision, if this guy seems like he's going to be good in a format, you just don't rely on flyers, and then he's trapped at 255, which is not a great stat block. So not off to a strong start, Falcon, but let's see. He only needs 2 experience, so he could conceivably level up on turn 2, depending upon if your opponent lets you do that or not. And what do you? I kind of wish he went from Falcon to Captain America, right? Like, why doesn't he go to Captain America? Mm, a little bit of a flavor miss there, in my opinion. But he becomes a 6/7/5, loses flight and gains range. 6/7, I mean, that is bet and bulletproof. Characters with range can't strike Falcon. Okay. Okay. So he's going to be Captain America at level 3. Yeah, okay. Okay, level up 2. When Falcon attacks an enemy character with range, he gains 1 XP. Uh, I mean, this I could sit here and repeat all the same stuff, but everything I said about level 1 applies. Now, the fact that his level 1 and level 2 hits both flight and range, at that point, how much games are am I being forced to play with my deck to try to control your level up? Is it really worth it? How suboptimally am I playing in order to control that level up? I think all those are valid questions. At a certain point, your opponent's probably just going to give you the XP because they need to be able to do what they want to do. But again, every step of the way, your opponent has the ability to really hinder you. And not only do they have the ability to hinder you, it may very well just be the right play because air superiority and bulletproof both incentivize for your opponent to not play the kinds of cards that you want them to play. Like, if I see that your guy's bulletproof, why would if I have a choice between playing a guy with range and a guy without range, I'm going to play the guy without range because it's in my best interest. And at the same time as doing what's in my best interest, it hoses you from getting your experience. That feels like a very awkward place to position this character. It would be one thing if it was like, oh, I'm not going to play this guy with range because I don't want you to get XP, but there's nothing really in it for me other than the counterplay. But you get value on both ends of it. You get the counterplay and you are incentivized to do it for your own self interest. So overall, I feel like this guy's going to have a hard time leveling up. Captain, and he becomes Captain America at level 3. Okay, I take that back. I was wrong. He retains AKA Falcon. He has flight and range. He gains a health, which I think is important. At 5 health, this dude was in trouble. And he's an 8/9. He also has air superiority and bulletproof via the keyword A New Legacy. So all throughout the whole game, your opponent is going to want to play cards that don't have range and don't have flight. Thinking over the photographic universe, I avoiding flight is probably not that hard. Avoiding range is maybe a little bit harder. Uh, in theory, his level up can because he doesn't even have to win the combat, right? Yeah, he just has to attack. So you can crash him in, you can suicide him in to get that XP, assuming your opponent has recruited the types of characters that you need. I can't think of too many. Like, there's probably some like real edge case cards where you can like give your opponent something. Like, is that the what is his name? Ash, I think, the aliens guy, who I think you pay a yellow and you can give him to your opponent. Does he have range? I don't know. It, your opponent's going to have to play into this if you ever want to see level 3. How often are they going to do that in a competitive format? I don't know if you can really rely on that like at the tournament table. At the kitchen table, I think this guy's really fun. It tells the story of the character. He's got his flying suit, he gets the shield, he sort of struggles with all of that and then finds his new legacy. Like, overall, both in terms of what I like about Sam Wilson as a character, like from the comics and before, but also specifically the way his journey was written within this TV show, everything this main character is doing, I think, is a theme home run. I'm just not sure you're going to see this Captain America in a try-hard setting very often at all because of how much control this level up gives to your opponent. Okay, next up we have Winter Soldier. So this guy is hero affiliated. He is a 3/4/6 with range and has stealth. Stealth on a main character. Okay. Oh my gosh. That's really strong. Stealth on a main character is extremely strong. We've seen this. couple of times before. I feel like there was a Predator, Mr. Black maybe, who had stealth or had some ability to get to the back row. Maybe that was his superpower. Um, did Dutch have stealth? Maybe he just had lethal. Stealth on a character, starting the game with stealth and always having the option to just blow past defenders and get to that back row is very, very powerful. Not just in terms of like winning the game, but in terms of the disruption effect. So there's the you can't hide your main character from me. That's one aspect of it, but you also can't hide your White Wingfoots. You can't hide your Liliths. You can't hide any of these back row value generating cards from me because at any point I can just step right past that front row and get on him. Stealth on a main character, even only with 3 attack, that's pretty strong. Also, he has range. So no matter where you put this guy, he's a legitimate threat. Yes, range is, I think, a little bit less versatile than stealth. Having the ability to actually get into the back row is for sure better than the ability to shoot from the back row, but this guy has both. Level up when Winter Soldier stuns a protected defender. Wow, what is with all these level up conditions that your opponent controls? Um, this is a problem. If your opponent just refuses to put characters in the front row, you could potentially run some things in this deck that would let you pull characters to the front row. I think, is that Whiplash, maybe, is a photographic option. I immediately think of Spider-Man and Spider Carnage, but those are both illustrated, so they wouldn't be in a deck with this guy. Uh, yeah, I mean, your opponent could also just not recruit for a couple turns until they level up, and then they start putting stuff out, and now they're too big for you to get into the characters that are in their back row. So there's again a lot of a chance for the opponent to have counterplay against this level up condition. I've I've been highly critical of level up conditions that your opponent controls for many years at this point. I'm not going to retread this ground every single time we read a level up condition today. So moving on, so there's a real symmetry between going stealth sniper and going air superiority bulletproof. There is parity between these cards, which thematically I get it. It makes sense. It does feel just a touch gimmicky, maybe. It's good. I like it. Okay, so he gets Sniper at level 2, so now he can make ranged attacks into protected characters. So he loses the ability to make melee attacks into protected characters, but Sniper is a strict upgrade. There's no way around that. If I can snipe your guy, there's a chance. Now, if your guy has range, I'm going to get hit back, but there's a chance I'm going to be able to do the same thing that Stealth does, only I'm in the back row. So I have guys in front of me protecting my guy, and I can get past your guys. So it's the best of both worlds. Like his level 1, kind of, you've got options. His level 2, you can hide him in the back row and you're going to be able to get away with it and still get the benefit of the stealth. Only it's called Sniper. He becomes a 5/7/6. That's a fine stat line for a guy who's hiding in the back row for sure. Even if the opposing character has range, the 7 defense probably means you can get the snipe off without having to worry about it. And he has to stun a protected defender to gain 1 XP. Again, same criticisms I had of Sam Wilson and the level 1 of this guy. Giving your opponent control over your level up is tough. Finally, he becomes Bucky Barnes. Man, I really like that. I Thematically, this is already a huge win for me without even looking at what the card does. Just Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. Like, this is the show in a nutshell, is this journey from Falcon to Captain America and Winter Soldier to Bucky Barnes. I'll, as always, Super Awesome Games nails it on the theme. So Bucky Barnes is a 6'11". Oh, that's a big butt. He's 6'11", 6 with range, making amends. Main phase, pay a yellow, remove any number of characters in KO piles from the game. This could be super relevant anti-Sentinel tech for sure. I mean, it hits some other things as well, but like Sentinels are kind of the big bad at the moment. 23 names on the list. When you remove any number of characters with making amends, if you've now removed characters with at least 23 different titles, you win the game. Okay, well, first of all, it's a yellow power, so we just have to say Jessica Jones. Okay, that's out of the way. Um, okay, so this doesn't just target an opponent. You can remove any number of characters in KO piles. So in multiplayer, this is gonna be stupid. Like like if you're playing like a 2v2, you're gonna get way close. 23 is like such a big number. Like how many decks have you played where there's 23 unique cards? Probably not many. And it only counts characters. Yeah, okay, so we can't even say like our four different locations or our three different locations count as unique cards or our plot twist. So that's about half your deck generally, not always, but about half your deck is yeah, I agree. Jason in chat says the 23 character alt win is not very likely. Uh, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. So let's assume half my deck, 30 of my cards. I know that's not true for every deck, but for purposes of argument, let's say 30 cards are characters. Out of those characters, you've got what? Two one drops, maybe four copies of one, three copies of it, something like that. So at each drop, you're only going to have like one or two, sometimes three different characters. So that's, let's say we go up to eight, and we have one eight drop. So it's one, two, three, four, five, six. Let's say we have three different four drops. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's only 15. So you're not basically if I play every character in my deck, I'm probably not going to get this unless I'm building a specific deck. Yeah, Theo, it does count. It does count your deck too. So if I build my deck essentially in like singularity format, or I always used to prefer calling it insanity because that's what they called it in original verses, or Highlander is the magic term, but a bunch of decks of like one ofs essentially, and you build your deck that way. So every turn, it'd be almost like playing like a Leviathan's deck where every single character, every game will be different. I actually do kind of enjoy playing those types of decks where you cycle through so many different cards so that every game you play is a really unique experience. But between me and my opponent's deck, the idea of having 23 uniquely named characters, there's probably some games where there aren't even going to be that many cards in the game. Like even if you got one copy of every character into the KO pile, you wouldn't hit that 23 number. So I don't think this is the most realistic thing in the world, but let's say we build our deck for this win condition, right? So in photographic, we have things like um, last one. We have things like friend from work. Um, I know there's other strong defensive plot twists on Hero, and I'm just drawing a blank on their names at the moment. So if we build a shell where we have kind of the bare number of plot twists, and you notice he doesn't use any superpowers, so we could potentially build this deck with pretty thin in terms of location. So let's say we can go like 2/3 of our deck as characters instead of half, and we have maybe like 15 to 20 cards that are non-characters in our deck, and then we try to be super defensive, and I guess we could spam guys out. Like what kind of low drops do we have in photographic that could really uh so I'm not going to be able to make the deck from memory right now, but overall the concept is you build your deck with a ton of different characters that have unique titles, try to play as many of them as possible, which means you're probably going to be playing a lower to the ground curve. Like you're going to want to be underdropping, playing multiple cards per turn throughout a lot of the game just to try to get to this win condition. I don't know. And then on top of it, if your opponent knows that that's what you're trying to do, what's to stop them from just putting all their people in the front row every turn? So that you never get the experience to get here. I don't know how realistic this is. I like it a lot. The kitchen table player in me, the casual in me, thinks this is really cool. The part of me that loves how good Danny and Ben are at putting theme into the game is giddy over these cards. As far as competitive tournament play, I am deeply skeptical that either Falcon or Winter Soldier is going to make the cut. In fact, we could just call them Falcon and Winter Soldier because that's what you're going to see. You bring these guys to the tournament table, you're not going to see Captain America and you're not going to see Bucky, I predict. Moving on. We have Star Star, Captain America, Star Star. Now, I remember reviewing this guy because of how silly double star characters look on the card. I understand different characters having the same name. I credit Super Awesome Games that they gave us the mantle system because in comics, it's an important thing. Different characters need to be able to be represented. This is the person behind the mask in this scene. This is the person in that. So a way to do that Great. In old verses, what they did is they had the character title, and then every character had an identity, which was like a subtitle underneath it. Instead of doing a subtitle in this game, we are doing asterisks. So, Theo, the only card that there's two that I can think of. There's Whiplash, the villain affiliated card, and then there's the hero plot twist, No You Move. As far as cards that can move characters around, there are more options for that in Illustrated, though. You're absolutely correct. So, this guy's a 4/3/5 hero affiliated. Um, that's annoying. That's not a great stat block, but he becomes ridiculous. Uh, Partner up, build phase, pay a red, put a hero supporting character with cost 1 or 2 from your hand onto your side as Captain America's partner. Captain America can only use this power once this game, so you get one partner. And I seem to remember when I was reviewing this that I think it's that card. It doesn't. If I play Super Soldier, and that copy of the Super Soldier becomes Captain America's partner. If that gets killed, it's gone. You don't have a partner for the rest of the game, even if you play another card with the same title. I think that's what. In fact, let's double check and see if it says. Um, it doesn't change the character's name. Okay, it doesn't specifically say one way or the other, but there's no reason to think that this affects all characters at that name. I just see no backing for that. Tarnishing the Shield. When Captain America KOs an enemy character, he gains an XP. When his partner gets KO'd on an enemy turn, he gets an XP. And when he levels up into the villain. So this last line of text is here because of the new level up rules specifying changing between. So which I'm fine with that. More clarity on that is good, I think. I think when I initially reviewed this, I thought that you could only get 1 XP from each of the two conditions, so that if the partner died during your turn, you would never level up. And I think that's wrong. I think you can get an XP from Captain America KOing an enemy character, or also his partner getting KO'd on an enemy turn. But he could just KO two dudes by himself and the partner never does anything and that's fine and he can still level up. So I think my initial reading of this guy was that you could very easily get locked out of your level up condition. Out of the three we've looked at so far, he has the easiest one. But your opponent still has a pretty good amount of control over when you're going to level. Like if I want to keep you at 3 defense for a while, especially knowing what this monster turns into, this might be the time I commit my shock to the system early game. So once we level up, he gets the Super Soldier Serum. So he's a 7/5/6 with Combat Master, Regeneration, and Tough. That's good, man. The regeneration with the 6 health feels pretty strong. Combat Master prevents the opponent from throwing plot twists down. So again, another incentive to, if you're going to use plot twists against this guy to try to mess with his game plan, you want to use him when he's level 1, because at level 2 you're not going to be able to. Tough all but guarantees that he's going to be able to get the regeneration proc each turn. Once he gets there, this guy seems good. I mean it's a little bit linear, so any deck that wants to like kind of attack and just turn sideways, it's somewhat easy to predict what that type of deck is doing. So he certainly has a weakness in that aspect. Like, okay, I know this guy's coming at me. He has to come at me. So I think if you blunt that early assault, and if he doesn't get this 2 XP within the first like 3 or 4 turns, it, 3 defense on turn 4 is terrible. And he's going to start getting cracked and cracked hard. And he's only 5 at level 1. So overall, do you guys remember when Angel came out? The Angel main character? I think it was either the one of the small, but it was definitely in the Utopia Battles arc. I don't remember which box it was in, but his level 2 is like one of the coolest cards you've ever seen. But you'll never see it because the level up is impossible. I feel like this level 2 is so tantalizing that it makes working for this level 1 seem seem like a good thing. Like you play this guy, you run your combat pumps so you can make sure you push those attacks through and you really push to get him leveled up early. If this guy's leveled up on turn two, that would be ridiculous. But it just if he had combat master on level one, that that if the ability to force attacks through, I think that's going to be tough for this guy. Okay, what is this card art? Okay, so we need a picture of Helmet Zemo, but like let's not be able to see his face. We need a heavily obscured picture of the guy on the card. Oh man, the better Super Awesome, getting ahead of myself. The better Super Awesome Games does at developing cards, I feel like the more antagonistic the people who pick the photo art get. They're like, how bad can we make this art and people still buy the like sometimes these pictures are so okay, actually most of the rest of these are pretty good. They're a little I would like a little more dynamism. Like this seems a little bit of a snoozer picture. Some of these other yeah, they're maybe not as dynamic as I would like. This is just silly. Like he anyway. Helmet Zemo, level one, villain affiliated. Berlin Correctional Facility inmate. Zemo can't attack, gain powers, or gain plus one counters, or equip equipment. We're off to a great start. I'm not even going to read his level up yet. Hang on. So, oh, and he's a 065. It's like they said, hey, let's take the creature from the Black Bog, but make him more annoying. Okay, so I get that he's in jail. Like, this is his story. We got the story for the other characters. Uh, Star Captain America, Star's fall from grace, uh, Winter Soldier's redemption, I guess redemption with his in his own eyes. That's all been good. So this guy starts off in jail. So I have to give him theme points. But who sits down to a game and is like, I'm going to play the guy who doesn't do anything? Okay, what's his level up? When Winter Soldier appears on your side, Zemo gains an XP. Is there another? Is there a Winter Soldier supporting character in this expansion? Uh, no. No, there is not. On the basis of this checklist, there is not a Winter Soldier supporting character in this expansion, which means the only Winter Soldier card we have in photo is a four drop, which means he levels on exactly turn four, or you lose the game because he only has 5 points and he can't do anything. So if you happen to draw exactly Winter Soldier on exactly turn four, I guess you could draw it on turn three and that'd be okay too. But if you play it on turn four, what happens with Helmet Zemo? So he becomes 7/7 with range and one health. I say one health because he's going to have 4 wounds by the time you get to turn four. Um, no, I'm being unfair. I'm being unfair. He is AKA Helmet Zemo. So I'm going to go on an aside about the art again. I really don't like it when and this happens more when they use comic book art, but the onomatopoeia, the speech bubbles from the comic book art end up on the card. I don't want to see the speech bubble. I don't want to see. Oh, Bucky's AKA. Good call, chat. Good call. I don't want to see text in the art part of the card. It's one of the reasons I find these logos so egregious, but this one is the most egregious ever. But this text over here is very distracting to me. Like, if it's not game mechanical words, I don't want those words on my card. Anyway, overall, this art is a significant improvement comparatively. Like the fire, I actually really like the old ski mask helmet Zemo is how Zemo looked when I started reading Captain America comics. So seeing that version of Zemo, I really enjoy. Okay, Helmet Zemo, Master Tactician. You can discard any card to power up Zemo. Why can't you be? Why can't you be illustrated so I can use you and Floki in the same deck? Uh, oh, okay. So the Bucky that's in this set is AKA Winter Soldier, but according to Jason in chat, he's 6 cost. So my point still stands that he's not going to level till turn four. Yeah. Or maybe turn 6 if you miss your 4 drop. 775 range, that's fine for level 2. Main yellow or red. And just to clarify, if you can play yellow or red, this does count as a yellow power, so I have to say Jessica Jones. KO, a face-up enemy supporting character with at least 3 different keywords and or superpowers. This includes flight and range. Um, that's good, right? It's certainly gonna have a varying degree. So depending upon the meta, it's going to. Robbie has my back in the chat. With Jen, I can wish for Floki, and then I can play this with Flo. All right, I know what I'm gonna build. um, this is a really good removal tool. Now obviously your mileage may vary because different character. Wait, does this say character? No, supporting character. For a second, I was like, wait, is it any character? Uh, so the fact that it specifically includes flight and range, which I don't think they needed to include that reminder text, but I'm glad they did because it prevents the question. Um, and especially with how they handled Dark Phoenix, now in some people's minds, flight and range are a special case. But setting all of that aside, I don't want to get into any of that. This pay a location, kill a dude is really, really strong. That's I'm having a hard time even. Oh, that's and if you can do that on turn 4, you can just whatever their play now. Of course, if your opponent doesn't play something that has 3 different keywords and superpowers, are there negative equipments in photographic now? There's the black oil, and that gives you a keyword and a superpower, or just a superpower. So potentially, there's a setup where you could even gift additional keywords to your opponent that that could get this to trigger when it otherwise wouldn't. That's not going to be my catchphrase, Theo. Uh, but that's just seems. I mean, the drawback is significant because there are certainly characters that aren't going to meet this. But every time I'm trying to think of somebody that's like really sick, they probably hit the 3 boxes, if not within most characters that are I can, I'm thinking of like Ares is a really strong 7 drop. Dude's all keywords. A lot of cards have a keyword and a superpower, and then either flight or range. There's certainly going to be some people that can dodge the pedestal bullet. But man, pay 1, kill a dude. That feels, especially because there's, well, there's nothing to do at all on level 1. But the point I was going to make is there's no eating off of the location plate with his level 1. So there are some characters where you have to use their superpowers to get them leveled up, and by the time you get there, I'm thinking of like She-Hulk from Civil War. By the time you get there, it's not superpowers, that was plot twist, not the same thing, bad example, but the idea is you have to invest resources into earning the level up, and then once you earn the level up, you don't have those resources left over to Willow, Dark Willow are other good examples within photographic, where you maybe don't have the resources left over to get the payoff of the level 2, Dark Willow in particular. This guy doesn't suffer from that issue. So, wow. This is a hard main character to break down because this level 1 is just like one of my very first criticisms of this game ever was I played the Professor X main character and I was like, Joe, this game is terrible. Like, who wants to sit down and do nothing for 4 turns? Like, this is boring. This is like the opposite of how I want to play the game. And in a lot of ways, I feel like this kind of falls in that bucket too. This is a very inactive main character. So you're going to have strong plays you can make to the game. So you're going to have essentially a very strong early game with this main character in order to just not get totally buried and snowed under. But once you get there, and let's keep in mind that photographic does have the ability to search for characters. If you could stick a Heimdall, you can search for. If you stick a Heimdall in like turn 2 or 3, probably wouldn't stick around that long. But if you did, you could search for Bucky on curve. If you can't stick the Heimdall, you could play him on 5 for 1, use his power, and spend the 4 remaining recruit points to get your Bucky out so you can level up on turn 5, which does feel late for a guy who's this weak on his level 1. But wow, that payoff. Oh, geez. Um, This guy might be good. I think this might just be a straight up good card. As as much as I hate everything about his level one, this level two is huge. Wow. So out of all the main characters we've looked at so far, this is the one that I think has by far the longest legs in terms of competitive play. Overall theme, I think all these cards have been hits so far. I like everything all these main characters are doing, but this main character does a couple of things. Oh, yeah, last one makes a lot of sense, Robbie. You don't even have to play anything, and you just last one. If you last one 3 turns and then play on four, now all of a sudden you're killing things. Now, superpowers can only be used once per turn, so we have to point out that you're not going to be able to like machine gun down a whole board with yellows and reds. But this is potentially 12 activations within your deck if you have a wild plus 4 of yellows and 4 of the reds. That's a ton of power you can put into this superpower. That's a big deal. 7 is not like a small number for a level 2. If you get this on turn 4, I mean, 7 on turn 4 is, I think, like the big value number. Kind of like the way 6 is on turn 3. These are like, if you want to be able to hit just about anything, 7 is where you have to get to, and a lot of cards can't get there. So by having a 7/7, not only is he strong as an attacker, he's got a strong defense, which, again, I think he's probably going to need because he's going to get beat up early game. Yeah. So far out of all these main characters, I want to say Zemo is the one that I think has the longest legs in terms of competitive play. Moving on to supporting characters. So I did an entire podcast a while ago, a couple of years ago, I think, about the Wakanda Forever package. I'm a fan of it. It has never been as strong as I wanted it to be. So giving us a one drop who's a 3/2/1, I'm with it. Now, I would have liked to see a little more stats, but I think Ferocious being on this card kind of makes up for that. Turn one Ferocious play that can attack for 3, that feels very, very strong. There's a part of me that would have been okay with seeing a little more hit points here, but the thing about the Wakanda Forever package is you want these characters to die. So I guess let's read this over. When AO, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, when AO is KO'd, When AO is KO'd, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, put a Black Panther character or a Wakanda Forever character other than AO from among them into your hand and shuffle the rest into your deck. So the reason Black Panther is specifically stated by name and all the rest are Wakanda Forever is because Black Panther was printed like a year before the Wakanda Forever keyword came out. Here's where we ended up. More support for this package I think is great. I love the idea that you kill my guy and I essentially get to draw a card most of the time, not every time, but even without the one drop activator, the Wakanda package was something that I've put in decks and played to decent success. Okoye is very strong on her own. She's playable outside of the Wakanda package. M'Baku is the one that I always felt was like a little weak, and the original Black Panther has some of the silliest artwork in all of photographic. But in terms of play mechanics, I love everything about it. I like the idea that there's a group of cards that kind of all work cohesively with themselves. They don't rely on the main character. They don't put any pressure at all on your locations or plot twist in order to do what they do, and they self-reinforce. I guess I think M'Baku has a superpower. So and I think it's red. Um, I'm with it. Great. I'd like to see a whole curve all the way up of Wakanda Forever. Potentially even like a deck that relies on this stuff because I think this is great. So I'm a fan of this card. I'm a fan of the Wakanda Forever keyword. More support for that feels great. I think I saw a preview for this card, and as I remember, she's very good. So Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, 2 cost, 0/6/1. Not the best stat block in the world, but her power is you're very, very valuable. When you recruit a character, it appears with 2+1 counters. This is quality. And this comes out 2 turns before Praetor. Praetor has been seen play for almost the same ability, except that it only affected villain characters. She does this for everybody. Again, 2 turns earlier. The only criticism I would have on this card is she herself can't fight. At 6 defense, she's probably going to be okay through turns 2 and 3. Coming turn 4, there's probably going to be a lot of cards that can pick her off, but by that point, she's going to be in the back row and she's going to be behind 3 drops and 4 drops of your own that are +2/+2, which is pretty strong. Uh, this isn't going to fit in every deck because this is a do nothing play. So that is the drawback. On my turn two, I'm choosing to invest in the future by playing a card that does absolutely nothing until I can play some other stuff. So this might be a card that you don't play on to, depending upon the makeup of your hand and the person you're facing. If you're playing against this this knucklehead, maybe you can get away with playing her on too. And there's certainly going to be main characters that are going to be scary enough that they can go in the front row and protect her. There are going to be games where you can't play her on two and you have to wait until at least three so you can play her and then put something like big and juicy in front of her. Paying one for AO to get a 5/4 with Ferocious on turn three, that is awesome. So this simple two card combo gives you an amazing beat stick for the cost of one. Now, we do live in a world where things like Primeval Hunter exist, and that guy lets you have stealth and six attack on turn three, which is six is inarguably bigger than five. Is ferocious better than stealth? I think there's some push and pull there. Uh, so overall, I think this is a card that's going to make a huge difference at tournament tables. I think people are going to play this in casual. It's not going to reward every person who plays it because there are going to be situations where throwing her down to try to set up for the next turn results in you getting punished by her getting stunned, and then you have two crappy turns in a row. But overall, uh, this card is as good as the screen capture is mediocre. All right. Oh, yeah, Jason in chat, the early drops in photo are weak generally, so she can potentially stick around. Sure. Yeah. I mean, there are main characters who are going to be able to get to her, but like, I think overall she's a good card. For cost, Sharon Carter. I can't, what is this? This is the coolest picture we could get of Sharon Carter taking a phone call. Like, international spy, shield agent, certified tough guy, tough gal. Let's get a picture of her on the phone. Okay. Uh, 3/8. Whoa. Okay, so this eight is a gigantic booty on. Well, I guess it's not gigantic on turn four. It's still big. It's quite big. Uh, I initially was thinking she was a three drop. I was eight defense on three. That's insane. That's not the case. So she's a four cost, 3/8/1 with range. Those stats are all decent. The ability's gonna have to do something for me because three attack on turn four is pretty weak, but eight defense is great, especially if you need somebody who can soak attacks and make it hard to get to the bubble boy. Power broker, pay one less to recruit. So she is a three drop. Pay one less to recruit Sharon Carter for each Madripoor location on your side. Oh, I think I saw this one in spoilers. Maybe. Or maybe I'm thinking of the hero one. Either way, well, I'll wait until I get to those cards. I love that they're giving us locations like this now, finally, after all these years. Anyway, so let's say turn one I play a Madripoor, turn two I play a Madripoor, then I can recruit her on turn two as a 3/8. That's ridiculous! Judge, jury, and executioner pay yellow. Put -1 counters on each enemy character equal to the number of Madripoors on your side. That power might not be good. Um, let's compare it to a card like Latent Mutation, where you pay the Latent Mutation, so you're paying a whole card plus a blue, so functionally two cards, and you get to put four -1 locked in at four -1 counters. Oh, is this Okay, so the Judge, Jury, and Executioner can hit main characters. So that's not a totally fair comparison to Latent Mutation, but just in terms of the raw math value that's coming out of it, Latent Mutation, you're paying two cards, you're getting four counters guaranteed. For Judge, Jury, and Executioner, you've got to stick her to the board, you've got to have Madripoors. So there's some situations where this is zero. You got to draw the yellow, and if you've got the Madripoor set up, this is potentially as good as Latent Mutation, but you're going to require four of your locations in your row to get there. Again, it can go on to a main character, which is a really big deal. How often do you see all four copies of one particular location in your deck in a game? Probably not that frequently, but two or three is not unheard of. In fact, that's definitely common. And sometimes you draw all four copies too. Like that does happen. It's not unheard of, but like I don't go into games expecting I'm going to see every copy of a particular card. You know how many cards you go through in your deck in a game? Half. So how good is this going to be? It has the potential to be very good, especially in the games. So in the games where she works, she's going to look awesome. You're going to play her for two. You're going to totally stonewall your opponent's ability to get any attacks off starting on turn two. They might not even be able to get to her until like turn four. And at the same time, you're throwing yellows down turn before Jessica Jones comes out, putting two, three, potentially four -1 counters on somebody. If you're paying one yellow to put one -1 counter on somebody, yes, they're. Oh my god, it's each character. Okay, good catch in chat. Thank you, Jason. Blatant mutation is the wrong card to compare this to. Wow, it's each enemy character. Okay, totally recalculate. Her optimal play scenario. Turn one, I play Madripoor. Turn two, I play Madripoor. Turn two, I recruit her for two, and then I can pay a yellow and vomit out. Let's say you recruited a one drop and a two drop. So I hit the one drop, I hit the two drop, and I hit your main character. I just paid one to put -6, -6 on your side of the board. Wow. That's huge. That's extremely good. Now, you're not going to get that in every game, obviously. There's going to be games where you don't see her. There's going to be games where you don't see the yellows. And actually, the Madripoors, I guess I am going to skip ahead. If you have two of them, she would be +2/+2. So she'd be a 4/9 on turn two. Um, so her upside is really strong, like extremely strong. What about her downside? What about the games where you don't see any Madripoors and you have to play her on turn four as a 3/8 with range? Depending upon the deck, like if what you need her to do is just have an 8 defense and sit up front and stall your opponent out, that's still okay. Like that's still pretty decent. Potentially there's a team attack with her where you just need a couple extra points, so you drop her into the back row for a turn to get that ranged team attack without getting cracked back. That feels really good. Um, oh, Madripoor doesn't stack. You just get the next one in the list. No, it says cumulative effects right on it. Why would it say cumulative effects if you didn't get each one? Cumulative means they accumulate. So if you have one, you get +1 defense. If you have two, you get +1 attack. If you have three, everybody gets lethal? What? Okay, it does only target villains, and if you have four, everybody gets stealth. This is insane. I mean, how often are you going to get all four copies of Madripoor? Are there any location search cards in photo? I know there's really good uh, character search. I don't know if we can search for these. So the idea that you're going to have +1/+1 lethal and stealth, um, that's probably never going to happen. That's pie in the sky. I mean, if the game goes really long and you get there, that's pretty incredible. Also, I absolutely love these locations that are giving us stuff that incentivize us to keep location space up in our row. Now, I'd like to see locations that kind of play with that tension a little bit more, where you could flip this face down for some kind of one-time benefit, or you leave it up to get cumulative buffs or whatever. That would be cool. I'd like to see some of that. But overall, I have nothing but positive things to say about Madripoor and whatever the man. What was the one? Was it the Hex? Oh yeah, the Hex, the controversial Hex location from WandaVision. Huge fan. I think these are great. Overall, two thumbs up for Sharon Carter. I think this card's going to be impactful. It's not going to be in every deck, and you can't just play her. Like I think if you're playing her without the Madripoors, and the Madripoors sort of incentivize you to play like a lot of villains in your deck. So there's a lot of things about her that's kind of pushing into a certain direction, and you're going to need it's going to overall limit like how versatile the deck is. So by putting her in your deck, that's speaking for a lot of other deck slots and kind of committing you towards a certain track. But villains have a ton of great cards, so committing to playing villains is not that big of a deal in the photographic format. Generally speaking, I mean, Mordo Killmonger Hela is a hella, a hella of a line. That wasn't that funny. So yeah, Sharon Carter. Everything on this card is good except for the card art. Baron Zemo. All right, we get a good look at his dopey mask. Love it. He is a 4 cost 3/3/1 with range. That's not good. 3/3 on turn 4 is bad actually. Like that's just straight up bad. At the start of your build phase, gain 2 recruit points, and you can start any card to power up Zemo. I'm not sure I totally understand the theme of why he can power up from any card. Um, I guess because he's so tactical. I mean, whatever. I don't care. It's a cool thing to give the character this unique ability. I'm fine with that. Gaining 2 extra recruit points. He's got to survive a turn, man. That could be difficult with the 3/3 stat line coming out on turn 4, which means you're potentially either going into your opponent's turn 4 or even your opponent's turn 5. And if my 5 drop can't stun a 3/3, I have other problems rather than you getting ramp. This is a pretty significant introduction of ramp into the photographic universe. So knowing that the top end of that has things like Surtur, uh, Odin, like there's a lot of really gross high cost cards. So let's say I play him on 4, he sticks around till 5. I have 7 recruit points on turn 5. Yeah, yeah, I could see that being. Then I get to play my Gen, and I wish for Floki, and on turn 6, I play Floki, and then I draw all the cards. Guess what I'm building when I'm done with this? Um, this guy seems a little tricky. There, it's hard to ignore how valuable +2 recruit points are, but it does come kind of at a late-ish point in the game where I feel like your opponent should have the ability to deal with him. Uh, if they can't deal with him, then do you really need those 2 extra recruit points? It seems like you're kind of already winning at that point. So I'm not sure this guy's going to have a home just because it, he's such a target. So, Moon Knight is a guy that lets you discard, I think, just other supporting characters to power up. I could be wrong though. I haven't played that guy in many, many years. Carly Morgenthau, Super Soldier Serum, Combat Master, Regeneration and Tough. That is fantastic. She's a 4/4/2, and supporting characters on your side with cost 3 or less have +3/+3. So that certainly takes your 3/3 Baron and turns him into a 6/6. But I mean, again, you're running into the cost issue with Baron. So you're going to try to get her out next turn. Well, then what are you doing with those recruit points? You're trying to get her out first, so you're not playing him till 5. I mean, I guess in photo, playing an 8 drop on turn, well, it'd be 6. I mean, I can sort of see it. Anyway, let's set Baron Zemo aside. Carly is ridiculous. You play out a bunch of low drop guys. I'm pretty sure that super soldier dude who's like 6 attack on turn 3 with range, he becomes 9 attack with her. That's really, really good. There's a ton of characters in the photographic universe at the low drops that if you give them +3/+3, they go from being like to being really ridiculous. Xander from Buffy, like as annoying as that guy is to clear off the board already, forcing your opponent to attack into him. Now he's 9 defense and he gets to draw cards every time you come at him. I think Carly, now she's not going to be great in every deck because not every deck wants to play a lot of low drops. But in a deck that does want to play low drops, she's got all these great words on her. 4/4/4 has 4 cost and 4/4 stats is not amazing on turn. 4/4 is not the best stats in the world, but Combat Master means you don't have to worry about somebody using plot twists to get around your not so great stats. Regeneration and Tough means potentially even if they get the stun on her, you tough it out, she heals it up. Now you're right back where you started and essentially time walked your opponent's entire combat step. There's a lot of stuff with this card that I think she's good. I think she's very good and gonna see play. Again, it's got to be a deck that wants to play smaller characters. Otherwise, she's not doing a whole lot. There's probably other things you can do on 4. But if you're playing that kind of deck, she's getting slammed in there. And even on her, even if you're not able to build up a big board before you play her out, she's got some game as a 4 drop. Although again, her stats are a little soft. The worst part of the card is her 4/4. 5 cost, John Walker, villain affiliated, 6/4/2, aka Star Star Captain America Star Star. Um, he's got the super soldier stuff, and he can't be struck while attacking an unwounded character. That feels good. 6/4 on 5 is a little weak on stats. Kind of suffering the same criticisms that I had of Carly, where a little soft stat wise. Oh, Jason in the chat says using Carly with colonists, so she has swarm, and you can play multiples of her out. That's a really good line. That's a really good combo. So John Walker, uh, most characters, I feel comfortable saying most characters only have the one hit point. Multi-health characters for, and maybe a little bit of that is my like playing this game for so many years bias. We do have a lot more multi-health characters now than we ever have at any previous point in the game's history. But generally speaking, I think there's a lot of characters that people want to play, important characters that only have one hit point. And this guy, even though his stats are a little soft, is going to be able to come in and run those. Essentially, he has lethal, or sorry, he doesn't have lethal. He's going to run into these characters, and his 4 defense is irrelevant because he can't be struck. Feels pretty good. Not going to be in every deck. Little boring, not the flashiest card, but it definitely seems like he could have some play. Okay, Bucky. So this guy does have AKA Winter Soldier. I don't think him having AKA Winter Soldier at 6 drop really changes the overall point about Baron Zemo's level up condition. You still want to hit the other Winter Soldier on turn 4 to try to level this guy up. Bucky, I remember this guy was ridiculous. I don't remember what he does, but I remember I got really excited about this one when I saw the card spoiler. 5/9/2 with range. Bucky can team attack with any character in his row. He has lethal while team attacking, and when he KOs an enemy character, draw a card for each attacker in the combat. This is there's a lot going on. So I guess maybe there's a critique of this card that there's so much text on it, and it's kind of a lot to shove onto a player to have to read all this. But the core of it is almost like the perfect card from a design standpoint because this guy has 3 different powers and they all layer on top of each other. They incentivize you to want to do the same thing and they benefit you from doing all the same things. So this card has such perfect cohesion. And of course, a card that lets me draw cards, I'm naturally biased to like more than other cards. He does come out a little bit late. You know, you're not going to be getting that card draw stuff happening until turn 6, but in really aggressive decks, you tend to be running out of gas on turns 5, 6, 7. So this guy comes down, and maybe you've got 2 or 3 other guys, 2 or 3 other units on the board. And you declare a team attack, and now instead of your grip being empty, you're holding 3 cards. That's great. That's it helps you rebuild. It refills the gas tank. He's also just good. 5/9 is not an like end of the world stat, but all the rest of these words kind of make up for his attack's a little weak, but you don't want him to attack by himself anyway. You want him to be in the position where he's team attacking. So it's fine. Let his attack be a little weak. And he's got a big fat defense. So the defense helps protect him and get multiple uses out of him to do all this other stuff. This is just a great card. This is a really good card. I have nothing but praise for Bucky. All right, Captain America. Now this is the kind of card art I like to see. This looks cooler than what was the one where he was just standing next to a tree. Yeah, like, or I guess there's a tree. Okay, you can't see the tree. He's standing next to a house. Sorry. Okay, aka Falcon, new legacy. So this is the same power that his level 3 main character has, where he can't be hit by characters that have flight or range. He himself has flight and range, and he's a 9/6/1. If all your opponent's characters have either flight or range, this guy can do some nasty stuff. If they have a 4 drop with no flight or range, that 6 attack is or 6 defense is a problem. I don't know. I'm not very impressed with this one. Card art looks cool though. Captain America's shield, one of a kind. Truth. Do you guys know what I'm going to say? Why isn't this zoomed in on the shield? Like, why isn't the shield the size of the whole card art panel? Like, why do I need to see this at all? One of a kind. A legacy. Equip this only to a character with Captain America in its name. We had legacy support in this game? So in old verses, cards that specifically called out one character and said you can only equip this to Wolverine, or you can only equip this to Batman, or only Batman can activate this ability. That was referred to kind of colloquially as legacy support. Calling this power a legacy, I like it a lot. I like it a great deal. Um, I'd like to see more cards like this where it says you can only equip to this specific character. Only, I, give me more of that stuff. I feel like there's a lot of flavor in that. Yes, it can make a card very siloed in that it only works in a specific way, but we got some of that with WandaVision, with Wanda and Vision. This is a cool direction to take the game. I'd like to see more of it. But what does this do? Shield throw. Okay. When equipped character attacks, choose up to three face-up characters and put 3, 2, and 1 -1 counters on them respectively. Okay, so it basically gives you the power of the Spider-Friend's Captain America, only it happens for free when you attack instead of costing a red. That Spider-Friend's Captain America is very good. He saw a bunch of play. His ability is part of the reason he saw a bunch of play. This is arguably better because it's free. You don't have to pay a resource to use it every turn. Um, the fact that this goes away once Captain America gets stunned does hurt it a little bit because it's one of a kind. Like, how many games are you going to see it in? But if this hits the board, this is amazing, especially if this hits the board on like turn one. Like, you've got a Captain America main character and you start throwing out 6 -1 counters. Wow. Um, I guess I think this is probably good, but my Captain America bias might be showing. I'm such a huge fan of Captain America as a character, and I've wanted a Captain America shield equipment in the game for so many years that now that I finally have it, I might be overvaluing it. One of a kind does hold it back, only being able to be equipped. So does wait. So it has Captain America in its name. So does that count Bucky? Or, even though he's holding the shield, of course it doesn't. Um, that does count John Walker. Oh, I guess in the cinematic universe, Bucky never held the shield. It was only in the comics where he did. Sorry, I'm confusing my mythologies. Um, seems good. I don't know if you can build a deck around something like this because there's no equipment search. No, that's not true. There's Tinker, 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 Tinker. So there is equipment search in photographic. It's not great, but I guess if you were going to try to build your deck around Captain America and -1 counters, maybe it's worth it to run Tinker Tinker. Uh, I like this card. I like it a lot. Super Soldier Serum, I've seen this one and I'm pretty sure it's awesome. So this gives the character Combat Master, Regeneration, and Tough. And importantly, this does not get KO'd when the character gets stunned. So you can put this on a multi-health character and they get all of this crazy stuff until the character dies. This is really good. It's actually surprising to me that this is not one of a kind. I mean, frankly, I might even go so far as to say that this is so good it's bad in casual play. I think kitchen table play, this is the kind of card that is going to see it, everybody's going to be like, oh, again, you're playing that again. Like this is going to become a bummer card in casual play because of how good it is. Uh, I predict. The greatest symbol. Hero affiliated. Any turn plot twist. Play this if a character on your side has Captain America in its name. Okay, I wanted more legacy support, and here it is. I love it. I'm with it. Build or main phase or combat. What? Okay. Generate a power symbol for a face up character on your side. that character then uses a superpower. So I'm gonna predict. I almost don't even think I need to look this up, but my guess is that this card can be played during any phase so that it can be used to activate any superpower. This is not a case of I play this during the build phase and then my opponent gets to, or I get to then choose a character that has a main phase superpower and I get to use it during the build phase instead because of this card. I don't think that's how this works. I think this just, so this is like four more locations. That um it is a little narrow because you have to have a Captain America, of course. So that's going to be a little bit of a limiting factor. But if you do have a Captain America, like I don't know if it's worth it to shoehorn Captain America into your deck to get access to this card. But so it's basically like a location that you can only amplify. And it can be used for, not only is it like a team affiliated wild, it's it's a location type wild. So my knee jerk reaction is that this is extremely good. Um, it's going to depend, obviously, on how sticky you can make Captain America be. If you don't have a Captain America, this is a totally dead card. But this essentially lets you use any superpower one more time than you would have been able to, even if you drew your entire deck. How many main characters is it like, well, if I draw blues, I win, and if I don't, I lose? And this is a tool that just lets you like put four more blues in your deck. But also, it's not just blues, but wait, there's more. It's also good for every team affiliation and every other color. This seems broken. I mean, I guess the drawback of having to have Captain America in play is going to make it usable in like very narrow decks. Like the use cases are going to be extremely narrow. And that does tend to be the way Super Awesome Games gives us really powerful, crazy stuff is, hey, you can use this, but only on a Tuesday. But in a deck that has Captain America in it, wow. I mean, I guess the only deck you wouldn't run it in is a deck where you're not relying on superpowers and you don't, or you don't care about superpowers in some way. But otherwise, I can't see what's this upends like a core like balance of the game. I mean, I guess we've actually seen what having unlimited locations looks like in the form of Monarch, and it is broken. This isn't anywhere near as crazy as that, but this is really strong. I as long as we have playable Captain Americas, this card is going to see some play. And it's for any character. It's not even limited to supporting characters. Jeez, that seemed nuts. And I've already said I really like Madripoor. Okay, so that takes us all the way through Falcon and Winter Soldier. I did remove all of the shrink wrap from these boxes before the video because I didn't want to. I apologize if that ruins the experience for anyone. So I've heard from the lofty, the lofty heights of Playtester Central. No specific details, of course, but I've heard that this is the most fun set out of this arc. So, okay. I'm getting excited about all this. Okay, I don't want to find out about the cards from the instruction book. I want to look at the cards. So, out of all these, I'm not sure. I think this is the set I've probably seen the fewest of the cards. So, there may be some surprises in here. Chat, keep me honest if I misread something. Okay. Loki is a 1/5/6. Ooh. Well, I already don't like his level up condition. When you equip Loki, he gains an XP. I mean, that is totally under your control, but how many good equipments are there in photographic that you want to put on your main character? I imagine there's probably I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Lucky Break. At the start of your build phase, put the top 5 cards of your deck into your KO pile, choose an equipment from among them, and put it into your hand. Ooh. There sure are a lot of effects in photographic that, like, wreck your deck, right? Like Dormammu's level up condition plays right into that. First Evil. Um, there sure is a lot of tech destruction in photographic, but okay. This lucky break power certainly increases the likelihood that you're going to be able to get him leveled up early at a 1-6 or a 1-5-6 stat line. I think you absolutely want to level him up early. That's a pretty bad stat line. The defense is weak. The attack is laughable. Uh, Sixth health is good. Range is good. Wow, that's a lot of words. I actually like this art with the dual swords. I think Hiddleston looks cool here. So he at level 2. So once you get an equipment on him, level 2 becomes a 396. Decent stats. Obviously, still a very weak attack, but that defense is great. That's a big old booty. Face your past and future. At the start of your build phase, reveal the top card of your deck and choose a random card from your KO pile. If they are the same card type, put them both in your hand. I guess you have a lot of control over what cards you put into your deck. And the incentive for this level up, being able to have the top card of your deck match a random card from your KO pile. Uh, Actually, let me take a step back. His level 1 really feeds in his level 2. And there may be a reason you would almost want to hang out at level 1 longer to make sure that you've got a large variety of cards in your KO pile so that you can hit. But it's random, so the more you add, the that may play with the numbers, but you get to control the pool from which these cards are pulled because it's your deck. So my first instinct would be to use as few different types of cards as possible in your deck. And one of the easiest types to cut out of any deck is equipment, but he has to have equipment. So, do you build a deck where you're not running plot twists? So far, he doesn't have any superpowers. Okay, he does at level 3, so it's dangerous to cut locations out of your deck anyway, especially in a format where Dormammu is legal. And also, superpowers are good, but I do think there are some decks that can run okay with no locations. Um, this is potentially really strong because if you flip the top card and you get the random, that's like you get to draw 4 cards that turn. That's completely insane. That's really strong. And this guy could potentially level up on 1. So starting on turn 2, you could be drawing 4 cards because you're drawing your regular 2 cards, of course, and then the top of your deck and something out of your KO pile. Now, your KO pile could run dry, and there are effects in the game that remove KO piles from play. Didn't we see one just a little bit ago? Sharon, I think, or no, the Bucky's 23 thing. So that's direct counterplay to this, but that power feels, I mean, as a hungry, hungry hippo for card draw, that is singing my tune. Next up, or his level up condition, it's never too late. At the end of your turn, Loki gains 1 XP for each character he's protecting. If he's protecting Mobius and or Sylvie, he gains 1 additional XP for each of them. So, best case scenario, I have Mobius and Sylvie in play. So he's protecting, and that's 4. So that would be his level up right there if you have both of those characters. I don't know where they're at in the drops. But again, the thing I really like about this, it's totally under my control. The only way the opponent can control this is if they kill my characters after I've played them. But if I recruit and I don't declare any like attacks that put me at risk, and with 9 defense, this guy can probably be a little punchy and still be safe. You're locked in to get your XP. Now, if Mobius and Sylvie don't have range, that could be. I'll get to him when I get to him. Overall, so far, these level up conditions are a lot better than most of what we saw in the Falcon and Winter Soldier box, in my opinion. Level 3 Loki. It's funny that they chose card art where the the lighting in the art matches the color of the frame. That has to be deliberate. Um, 710 with range, stays at 6 health. So he doesn't get that much of a defense buff when he goes up to level 3, but his attack finally becomes respectable. Forge my own destiny. Main phase, pay yellow, choose a team affiliation Loki doesn't have. He gains that affiliation for the rest of the game. Cool. Fairly decent magic. Main phase, pay a blue. For each team affiliation Loki has, put a +1 counter on him and a -1 counter on each enemy main character. Draw a card, and each enemy player discards a card? Wait, do they draw and discard equal to the counters? For each affiliation he has, put a +1, a -1, draw a card. Yeah. So he starts off with villain. So initially you pay a blue, he gets +1, you get -1, I get a card, and you chuck one. And if I use his power even once, that doubles. Wow. So so this guy is like a card advantage machine. Like he's just an engine of card advantage production. It starts off, you've got to mill yourself a little bit at the beginning to kind of like get it going so that you can draw those extra cards with the level 2. But then once you get to the level 3, you just start ripping your opponents. Why is there so much discard in photo? Oh my God. So if I draw 2 yellows, and over 2 turns, I gain 2 more team affiliations. Not only do I get the added benefit of potentially being able to play all these crazy plot twists that I shouldn't be allowed to play, or equipment, or whatever else, although his level 2 power, face your past and future, sort of discourages like scattershotting the deck. Uh, but that is a potential benefit. Like maybe you just ignore face your past and future and you put the toolbox in the deck. Then you use this twice and you get to draw 3 cards, get +3 on your main character, -3 on the opposing main character, and rip 3 cards out of the opposing main characters. Now, that does cost you 2 yellows and a blue to pull that off. So there's a lot of work you have to do there. But considering how difficult the level ups were in Falcon and Winter Soldier, this seems shockingly easy for how strong this level 3 is. Oh my God. Uh, Yeah, Jason's in chat kind of saying the same thing. Like, he's really easy to level and he's so strong. This is wow. I think this might be good. Like dangerous good, like competitive viable, gross good. Um like what do you even do to stop it? Like there's just no interactivity. I mean, sure, you could get up to like turn 7 and play Molder and I rip all your equipment out of your deck. But if you haven't leveled up past level 1 and I'm on turn 7, you got bigger problems than the level up, you know. Man, is this gonna be my new favorite main character? This seems his level up just seems well, okay, I haven't looked at Sylvie and I haven't looked at Mobius, so maybe those supporting characters suck really bad, and playing them out is a drawback. But my initial reaction to Loki is, what on earth? Well, yeah, wholly unbalanced main character. I agree with you, sir. Okay, so let's move on to Sylvie. This is a character I'm really excited for. I think I've said many times how the 6 cost Floki from Illustrated is one of my all-time favorite cards ever in the game. I really like Sylvie's character in the show. Like out of all the D plus shows, Loki was, well, I guess there's only 3. uh, but Sylvie in particular was one of my favorite characters out of that whole run of D plus shows. So I'm really excited for this. I want this main character to pay off. And given how bonkers city this one was, uh, this is going to have to be a banger, or I'm going to make a sad face. Let's see. All right, we've got a 1/4/6 with range. So a marginally worse stat block. But let's see what else she does. Hiding in the timeline. Main phase, pay a blue or yellow or green or red and hide Sylvie. She can only pay for this with a location she's gained XP from this turn. Okay, let me read the experience condition, I guess. Fugitive variant. Level up 3. When you play a location, Sylvie gains 1 XP if she hasn't already gained an XP from a location with that name. Okay, so this is going to count things like Bifrost, and it's going to count things like whatever, Madripoor, like locations that you don't use to pay for superpowers. She can get experience off of. So you could pack your deck with a bunch of different locations and probably come close to leveling up on turn 3 very consistently. I was going to say close to every time. Obviously, it won't be every time because variance is a thing. Even if you ran every different kind of location you could, there'd still be those weird games where you don't draw 3 different ones. This does not seem like a challenging level up to me, though. Now, I don't know what the rest of this deck is going to look like. And if you want to hide her, I'm a little worried about the need to hide her. So you are going to want to play locations that can produce energy symbols because more often than not, you're going to want to hide her, and it has to be that turn. So if you play the red, you're going to hide her that turn probably. Although I don't know what other demands she has on locations, so maybe you eat the wound to have the location available later because you probably are going to be eating wounds with 4 defense. Um, Card art is silly. I mean, it does look cool, but you can't even see her really. You know what I mean? Like ominous figure, level 1. Uh, this does not seem like a hard level up to me. I think she's going to see level 2 frequently and without a whole lot of difficulty. She becomes a 4/7. That is a much better stat line at level 2. 4/7/6 with range. Uh, wow. Wow. So pay a blue and resolve the combat, not cancel. So this is not like friend from work or think again. This is like in good hands. In that you to declare the attack, and in good hands makes it so you can't strike me back or whatever, right? But this I get to declare the attack, and it's like pseudo combat master almost because I can pay a blue, and it's like combat results right now. You don't get to play anything else. You don't get to do anything else. So wow, and think about how many times your opponent has had to declare an attack, and it's like okay, I'm going to power up, and often the way we play that is we go power up, play a plot twist. That's not how versus works. There is a point in priority in between every single action. So if you attack me and you need more than one thing to get to my 7 defense, I can pay a blue and now you can't get there. That is great. And just the threat of it is good. Like even if I don't pay the blue, if the blue is sitting there, you have to think about it and you have to go, okay, well if I commit this Stark Tech to this, actually Stark Tech's main phase, whatever. If I commit this combat plot twist and then they pay the blue, I'm not big enough. Okay, I can't declare that attack. Just having the blue showing could scare people off of declaring attacks because they know it's a multi-step process. Even if you don't spend it, so you get that discouraging element, that mental head game. This is good. This is awesome. I mean, I don't know if the card's good, but that power is awesome. I love how that works. Resolve the combat instead of cancel the combat. That's great. When a character named Loki, with Loki in its name, appears on your side, you gain an XP. That's not great. So the only Loki we have in photo prior to this box is a 7 drop that, as I remember, is not that good. I have to think that there's going to be a Loki in here. Yeah. Uh-oh. Seems like this one is going to be later in the game. But I guess if she can't even level up from 1 to 2 until turn 4, or turn 3 at the earliest, maybe turn 4, waiting for a 3 or 4 cost Loki is not that big of a deal. That's actually going to be like right on time. That's going to be on curve. So okay, I mean I'll have to see what the Lokis look like in this stack of cards, but I'm back on this being awesome. Level 3. Sorry, I should read the card before I start reacting to it. She's an 8/7 with range and 6 health. That's a fine stat block for the. I mean, 8/8. I would like to see 8/8 if she didn't have range. 8/7 with range. This feels great. I love every part of this. No one remains. Main phase. 2 green. Stun each enemy supporting character. Isn't there a supporting character? Like I think the 5 cost War Machine. You pay green green and you KO a character. This lets you stun all the supporting characters. I mean, it's really expensive. I don't know how many times you're going to be able to do it per turn or per game, rather. Once is probably enough. I mean, if you do this twice, you probably won. Like, you clear everything else out and then you attack the main character. This is going to be like turn 4, 5, 6, something like that. If that's not enough to finish them off, you probably got other problems. This seems good. Maybe a little. I'm not totally convinced about the level up between levels 2 and 3. Because if the cards that we have to play in order to get there are bad, that could really hobble her. Uh, kind of the same, almost the exact same criticism I had for Loki. So good job once again, super awesome games. You've created like really good parity between your characters. Oh, jeez, Jason in the chat. If you play Hela and then pay the 2 greens, that just kills their entire board. What happened with this box? This seems so much stronger than the Falcon box. Oh my god. Okay, but I guess we can tell Danny and Ben are fans of Loki. Mobius. So TVA Interrogator, pay a yellow, put the top card of an enemy deck into its KO pile. The player discards a card of the revealed type. If they don't have any, they reveal their hand. 255 is not a great stat line, but this power is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So you're attacking. So a lot of times disruption effects only attack along one axis. Like you'll have cards that will mill, and it will take mill for non-Magic the Gathering players is taking cards off the top of the deck, putting them directly in the KO pile. Never gets drawn, never gets played. The player just gets no value out of it. This is not only milling, it's forcing discard. So you're attacking their hand and you're attacking their deck. That's pretty good. And if you don't get the discard, you get to see their entire hand. And this isn't limited to like, well, I mean, it'll be limited to the early game because, of course, you want to level up. But like, you can get so much knowledge. Oh, you haven't played that friend from work, huh? Okay, well, I guess I'm going to attack with this guy instead of this guy because I don't want you to cancel this combat. Like, that's the type of value that is really, really hard to put into like a concise description because a less skilled player is going to be able to do a lot less with that information. Like if I just don't know a lot about how cards interact or how combat phases go down, um, it's going to be hard for me to profit off of knowing everything that's in your hand because I'm not going to be able to put myself in your on your side of the board into your shoes and know how you're going to want to use it. But the higher tier player, like kind of players that you're going to play against at the tournament table, guys like Mitch, guys like Smallwood, of course, them knowing everything that's in your hand is going to allow them to play around that stuff. And one of the most important skills a player can develop as you get better and better at card games is hand reading, is being able to understand what your opponent has based on their actions and the clues they're giving you, know what your opponent has in their hand. This lets you skip the entire skill of hand reading and just gives you the information. Now, what can you do with that information? That's going to depend on your skill level as a player, your proclivities as a player. Uh, but overall, the fact that this is on a main character, this is online right away, that's incredibly strong. Like I pay a yellow and I get to know what you're going to do for the next 3 turns. Now, over those next 3 turns, you're going to draw 6 more cards, so it's not going to be perfect information, but this is very strong. SAG doesn't want us to play anymore. They just want us to destroy hands and decks. Yeah, in photographic, 100% right, Jason. Okay, so how does he level up? When a character appears on any side, Mobius gains 1 XP if there's another character with that name in a KO pile. That sucks. That's, I mean, I get that his ability is going to force cards off your opponent's uh, deck and out of your opponent's hand, but if they're not discarding low cost cards, like it could be turn 5 before you're able to affect this. I guess if in this deck you're playing um, like swarmy guys, you're playing like a curve that's really bottom heavy to get this out and facilitate this, it probably wouldn't be as bad. But if you're playing like a mid range deck, this guy never levels up. Uh, at level 2, oh, he still has TVA Investigator. Dude, I assumed he would lose that yellow power at level 2 because it's so ridiculous. So you can check what's in your opponent's hand throughout the whole game? This is crazy. I don't know that you're going to see his level 2, but I don't know that this might be one of those main characters where you just don't even care about leveling up. And you just use this power and you recruit stuff in front of him to protect him. Jeez, this is nuts. Okay, 10 is such a big number. It just, that's a really big number for a defense on a main character. Other good characters on your side have plus 5 for green. So this guy has like a power gem, right? Is that the one that gives everybody? No, power gem is plus 10 attack. There's a plot twist that does something like this, right? Doesn't matter. Plus five across your entire board is ridiculous. That's extremely strong. Uh, plus three is generally the break point where, in my head, I think, okay, that allows a character to attack up curve. This is potentially going to allow a character to jump the curve twice. So, like, plus five could allow some three drops to get into some five drops uh, without. That's very, very, very strong. Um, I'm not sure how often you're actually going to be able to do that because I think this level up is going to be tough. Uh, the character has to appear and it has to match, and it's just one experience for each character that does this. And it has to match a name with a character. Now, against like a Sentinel deck, this guy levels up immediately. You know, like this guy totally hoses Sentinels in a couple of ways. Like the TVA Interrogator power is really going to prey on Sentinels too, because so much of that deck is going to have like the same card type. You know what I mean? Um, so you'll probably never get a peek at a Master Mold's hand with this ability, but you're going to destroy them in terms of ripping the deck and the hand apart. And then, so this doesn't affect him, so he doesn't become a 10-15 off his own power. Um, I'm not sure how sold I am on this plus five. Yes, it's going to be good, but I don't think that's why you play this guy. I think you play this guy for TVA Investigate Interrogator, and you just rip apart decks and hands. This is a deck that doesn't want to play fair. It's this main character. Um, I don't know how I feel about that level up though. Depending upon the opponent, I think it could be easy, or I think it could be never. It just, I don't know. I'm gonna have to get to the table. Okay, Ravona Renslayer. That is such a cool name, right? Ravona Renslayer, head of the TVA. Pay yellow, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, put a card that has a power with TVA in its name into your hand, then shuffle the rest into your deck. Ooh, so we can have like a swarmy deck in here of TVA guys? That could be cool. She's a 3/4/5. That is okay stats. That kind of bad, honestly. 3/4. I don't like seeing 4 defense on a level 1 main character. Running the show. At the start of your turn, Ravona gains 1 XP for each card on your side that has a power with TVA in its name. So that would count her because it's head of the TVA. So if everything else goes wrong, she levels up on turn 6. Uh, Actually, you'd probably die on turn 5 with 4 defense, but she does have. This is another great example of the kind of level up condition I like. Your opponent has no way to counterplay this, like just none. Okay, head of the TVA, so she still has the ability to look at the top 5 cards and yoink one that says TVA, just like at level 1. She becomes a 6/8/5 at level 2. That's okay stats. For all time, always, at the end of your turn, if there is a Mobius, Loki, and Sylvie supporting characters on your side, you may remove them from the game. If you do, recover all characters, then take an extra turn after this one. Time Walk is really strong. Like it's been really strong since Magic the Gathering back in the day. The ability to take a second turn is huge. This is a big cost. You have to recruit three different characters. I'm not sure what costs. Well, I can see here Mobius is a two, so we need what is it? Mobius, Sylvie, and Loki. Can't believe there's a Ms. Minutes card. Classic Loki. So this has Loki in its name. So I think this is going to trigger for Sylvie, but I don't think that counts as Loki for this. I think we need, yeah, we need this. And then Sylvie's a six drop. Oh man, so you're only going to be able to do this like once. That I mean that could be enough though. Jeez, two turns in a row. How many games is it like? Oh, if I got one more turn, I could have won. Um, I think the quality of her level two is going to be directly related to how much I want to play these supporting characters. So I might have to come back to her. Overall, I think being able to play a second turn, and this isn't limited, right? So yeah, so conceivably, I remove Mobius, Loki, and Sylvie from the game. How many recruit points would I have to play them all again? Probably too many. 12, 14. Yeah, so I'd have to have 14 recruit points to play them all. And then, well, if I've got Zemo in play, huh? What if I have Zemo in play and we give him Swarm somehow, and so we have two Zemos in play, so we get an extra four recruit points. So we'd only need to be at 10, and then we could take multiple back-to-back turns. This is silly. All right, let's move on from Ravonna. I'll come back to her. Mobius. So, TVA personnel. You may pay one less or one more recruit point to recruit Mobius. If you do, he appears with a -1 counter or a +1 counter, respectively. Okay, that's actually cool. I like that a lot. So you can recruit him on turn one as a 2/2, which is fair, or turn three as a 4/4, which is also pretty decent. That's great flexibility in the two slot. This is actually really good. Um, Not doing a whole lot other than just being a guy on play or feeding into one of these other characters' level up conditions. But like, especially with Loki, who wants to have Mobius and Sylvie in play. Oh man, we don't get Sylvie to wait. Is there really not a Sylvie until the six drop? Does she have a way to be cheaper? I okay, I'll slow down. If the only Sylvie we have is a six drop. Oh, but he doesn't have to have Sylvie. He just has to be protecting people. She just gives an extra XP. Okay. Yeah, I'm still on the Loki is broken board bandwagon. You're predictable. When Mobius appears, choose an enemy character and its front or back row. Until Mobius leaves play, at the end of that character's formation step, it must be in that row if able. Yeah. Your main character that has to attack and doesn't have range. Well, wait, is it supporting character? No, it's just character. That's crazy. So I have like a Mr. Black style main character where I need to well, that's a bad example, but I have one of those main characters, Rogue, where I have to attack every turn, and Mobius just goes get in the back row and stay there. That seems ridiculous, right? I mean, they have to put it there during the formation step. So if you have a mobile or something, they're not locked there. They can still move around. Um, Yeah, this falls right into the bucket of like Whiplash and No You Move, which we were talking about with these guys because they're so dependent on where characters are located. Oh yeah, exactly, Jason. What is going on? This seems. I mean, again, so this is one of these cards. It's not going to be for every deck. It's not going to be all the time. You're not going to want to do this in everywhere, but in the deck that wants this kind of power, this is really good. And this is like potentially a one cost foil to other main characters' level up conditions. So not only does this help facilitate those characters' level up conditions, you could lock the opponent's Bucky in the back row so he can't get those melee attacks that he needs to get with stealth into those protected characters. And if they don't have an answer for this guy, he just stays back there while you're leveling up and doing your thing and drawing your cards and declaring attacks. They're locked at level one because of potentially a one drop. What is with this box? Um, yeah, I mean, this isn't the flashiest card. This isn't a character that I was expecting to be like really strong, but this your predictable power. Um, I could see that really like wrecking some players' games. Like if you're all in and like you're relying on you're the last one, so you don't want to recruit a bunch of things to the board, but you need to be able to have your main character in the front row. This guy just completely hoses that, and maybe you have to. Okay, now I have to recruit something. Now my last ones aren't active because I had to deal with him, and like it just snowballs. Like this one card making your opponent choose an inefficient recruit step one time could ultimately snowball into the deciding the game. This is really good. I wow. Ravona's looking better. Ms. Minutes. Come on, guys. 0-10 on three. What is happening? Okay. I have to feel like there's something here that's going to give minus defense to this. You can't give a three drop 10 defense. What is going on? Okay. When a special location appears on an enemy side, stun Ms. Minutes. Okay, so that she is extremely stunnable. Special locations that counts team affiliated wild locations, so it's not just these wackadoo Madripoors and Nexus of All Realities or Alcatraz. It's basically anything that isn't a basic Academy Fortress. Those. So every deck runs wilds. Almost every deck runs wilds. Uh, I think a lot of decks are going to be running a lot of these new special locations because they seem really cool as well. So that's all you have to do to get past this 10 defense. Okay, I kind of understand it because that's really you don't even have to go into combat to deal with that. But let's go ahead and see what the rest of this card says. Up to the minute. Build phase yellow. Check the time. I don't know if I'm going to like this kind of gimmick card. Check the time, and based on how many minutes past the hour it is, search your deck for a card of the following type. Reveal it and put it into your hand. So if it's quarter after, you search for equipment. Between quarter and half, a location. Between half and 45, a plot twist. And if it's quarter till the next hour, a supporting character. Um, th- this is not a fair thing to do to tournament organizers. Like, I can already see somebody going, okay, I'm going to pay yellow. No, I'm not. Hang on, let me think. Okay, it's been 3 minutes. Now I'm going to pay yellow. Now I can search for that plot twist I need. This card is like a slow play violation, uh, all wrapped up into one card. And the opponent too. Like if I know the one card you need to bail you out, like I'm thinking back a couple midwinters ago when the Red Skull deck was running around and it needed that exact one of a kind. Was it Deep Throat or X, whichever one of the X Files plot twists that Red Skull deck needed in order to do its game winning thing. If I know you're trying to search for it and I look at the clock and it's like, well, if I take a 7 minute turn, then when I pass it back, you have to search for equipment and not a plot twist. This is this is a headache for a TO. It really is. And at 10 defense, it can potentially stick around. If your opponent can't draw the locations to clear it, this can gum up the board, make attacks impossible. There's not a lot of flying. I think this card's going to see play. It's impossible to ignore how good it is to be able to just pay yellow and go into your deck and get something. We've seen how much Wakanda gets played, and Wakanda isn't nearly as useful as Ms. Minutes, and that has still been a format defining card a few times. Um, this is I honestly this card might just have to be banned. Like not even because of what it does, but because the incentive to be slow playing or either because I need to search for a certain thing or to stop your opponent from searching for a certain thing. Um, maybe, I mean, I always want to say like, hey, people wouldn't do the wrong thing, not in this community, but I like this is a headache for a tournament organize. And once you get to top cut, if this is in your deck, then there's not even really like you have unlimited time. You know what I mean? Like, ugh. It's really good. Yeah, it can get stunned pretty easily, and maybe this will lead towards a play pattern where people hold back their wildcard locations to make sure you can only get one activation off of this thing and you don't get it multiple turns to search for multiple things. Maybe. Um, I do not envy any judge who's going to have to preside over an event where this card is present because you're going to have to make hard calls. Like, was that person stalling because they needed the time to be a certain time? Or honestly, I almost think the way to handle this in a tournament is you get a D4, and on one you get equipment, on two you get location, three plot, and so on, and do it that totally violates the spirit of what this card is. It violates the theme of the card, but like in the interest of running a tournament, especially a 1 day tournament where you've got like time limits to think about, it's kind of a bummer that I'm not really even talking about the card. I'm talking about the mechanics of running an event. But as someone who's run an event or two and been to many, uh, this is wild. I hate to say it, this might need to just be outright banned right away from tournament play just because of all the like sticky areas this is going to put TOs in. Maybe I'm overselling it. Anyway, let's set aside all the TO stuff and let's just analyze this as a card. This is fantastic. A 3 cost card with a 10 but it's going to be really hard for people to deal with, honestly. Yes, the hologram, the TVA hologram power, puts you in the position of this being really fragile. As soon as you say pass turn, your opponent might be able to clear it without any work at all, but arguably by then you've already played it, you've already paid the yellow, and you've searched whatever important your Captain America shield, your Lazarus Bowl. I probably wouldn't do that, but like whatever one of a kind card you need out of your deck, whatever key drop you were missing. Um, Search is really powerful. It's really really strong. I don't think it's as strong as Super Awesome Games thinks it is because they have definitely been more reluctant to give us search cards than I would have liked. This one has a lot of like weird limitations on it, but it's still anything you need search basically. It's just a matter of gaming the clock. Uh, is that a play pattern we want to encourage in the community, especially in the tournament space? I don't think so. I think this card might be bad for tournaments, even though it will be good to bring to the tournament table. I think this card is good. Uh, Overall, uh, assuming nobody's playing stall games to game the time of the clock for when they activate it, Ravona's looking better and better. Okay, Ravona Renslayer. TVA personnel. Obviously, you can't use her for Ravona's level up condition because of uniqueness, but 5/5/1 on turn 4. It's a little weak on stats. TVA personnel, you may pay one less or one more to recruit Ravona. Oh, so that's the same as um, Mobius as a 3 cost 4/4. That's still 5 cost 6/6. Yeah, I don't know. I think the +1 -1 is way more impactful with Mobius than it is with Ravona, but this does give you a lot of flexibility in your curve. You're not going to have to build as much redundancy into your curve if you have these cards that you can play over a 3 turn window and have them like be on curve. Like the type of mid-range deck, like this is a mid-range deck's like dream kind of card. Like you'll never miss a drop with this kind of thing. And it won't be like a weak underdrop because you get to pay the extra hit, which is a very cool mechanic. TVA Judge. Pay a yellow, choose an enemy player. That player chooses a supporting character on their side. Then you say innocent and put that character into its owner's hand, or guilty and stun that character. Uh, so potentially a 3 cost card that you pay one and you get a just clean removal. Whatever's more damaging. Either you stun it and kill it, or you bounce it to the hand. Uh, this is good. I mean, it's yellow, so Jessica Jones, but like, This box, this box is nuts. Classic Loki. So because this has the word Loki in the name, I think, yeah, this doesn't specify that the name has to be Loki. It just has to have Loki in the name. So I think classic Loki counts for Sylvie's level up condition. Classic Loki. This costume is too cool for them not to have got a better image of it than this, but whatever. 472, Glorious Purpose. Main phase, pay a blue, search your deck for a special location and put it onto your side, then wound classic. This is a ramp card. So let's go back in time to 3 cost Nick Fury. You pay yellow and you take the top card off your deck, put it in your row, peek at it. If it's a location, you can turn it face up. This is basically the same thing, except you're guaranteed to get a special location, like a Madripoor to support the Sharon Carter you want to play or already played. Uh, yeah, that's good. That's really good. I can't believe how powerful this box is. Like, I'm normally not one to like go, oh, power creep. Like, I actually had I was gonna say argument, but a discussion with Danny back in the day where I made a passionate case in defense of power creep. Like sometimes things should get stronger, and that's okay. This box, I mean, is this like the single most powerful? No, I shouldn't say that. That's I haven't even looked at all the cards, but some of these effects are just this is not stuff that I like. I look at the so we started this video with this box, and there was a lot of cards in here that I was like, wow, these are really strong, but you have to keep in mind how difficult this level up is. Your opponent has a lot of counterplay here. Like it felt like there was good, exciting stuff, but it was more like on par with um, Civil War and Symbiotes, where there was powerful stuff, but the counterplay was there. Uh, some of these cards in this Loki box, I don't even immediately know what the counterplay would be. Like this is just pay a blue ramp, but you get a search for the card, so then you have whatever Loki you need. Um, I guess the drawback is that you have to wound him, and he's only a 4.72. 4.7 on 5 is not a great stat line. But for Sylvie, I mean, you want those 2 greens anyway, so you go get your wild card location, right? And now you're set up. Oh, that was my Loki. And does she level up as soon as he appears? Yeah, as, as soon as he appears. So you play this guy. She becomes this. You pay a blue because you didn't draw your 2 greens, and then you just kill everything. This is nuts. Uh, wow. I don't know if this guy's gonna generally be good. Like, yes, ramp is good. Is turn 5 ramp good? How dependent on you are on support? I'm not sure if this guy is going to see a ton of play everywhere, but there are going to be decks that want to be able to skip turn 6 and get to their 7 drop. He fits there. There's going to be decks that are going to be really reliant on getting the Madripoors or uh, the hexes into play. Like, isn't there a version of Wanda that needs the hex locations in play to level up? Turn 5 is kind of late for that, but this could be a a emergency lever that you could pull uh, to bail out of a bad situation with that deck. Is it worth the slot? I don't know. I'd have to build the deck. But the point comes down to: are there going to be any deck that is going to be really reliant on a special location, or decks that are cool with just skipping turn 6 entirely? I think this guy potentially has a home in those kind of decks. 4.72. I feel like these stats should be like 1.32 for the. No, that's probably too harsh, but this effect is really strong. It's targeted search and ramp for 1. So you're almost not even paying for it. It's almost free because I pay a blue, but then I get to go get a location. Well, I could go get another blue, at which point it's revenue neutral ramp. Bishop, a very recently released card, Bishop paid a blue, and you had to take his body and put him in the row. to get the ramp. So this is the difference between photographic and illustrated. For the same cost and the same net effect on the total number of recruit points you have, it's the difference between putting a character that you invested 3 recruit points in face down or keeping the character and getting a targeted search out of your deck. One of those things is dramatically better than the other. And I realize this guy's 5 and Bishop is 3. That is not a 2 recruit point difference in value. That is a 2 recruit point and universe difference in value. Photographic just gets some bonkers power level, and this is no different. Um, that guy's very playable. Again, not generally playable, but in the decks that want that stuff, he's an excellent tool. All right, so Star Loki Star. I do not care for how this knife is flipping. It makes it look like its head's cut off a little bit. It's kind of weird. Um, Now I don't remember why is this mantle Loki? What am I forgetting about the show that this isn't just Loki? Oh, I guess he's also mantle Loki. Oh, this differentiates him from the other timeline Loki, I guess. Yeah, why does he have because that is the same guy, it's just at a different point in time. Whatever, I don't want to get bogged down on that. This guy is Star Loki Star. Okay. 6 costs, 772 with range. I'm not impressed by those stats. TVA personnel. So that's on this card, but it's not defined. That's the one where you can pay one more or one less, right? Yes. So you could play him as a 6/6 5 drop or an 8/8 7 drop. Eh, I, that power seems less and less impressive the further up the curve we go. With Mobius, it was like, this is really good. With everybody, I mean, it's good. The flexibility is still good. If you want to play a mid-range deck, having that kind of flexibility in your drops is going to let you pack a lot of other fun stuff in the deck as well, because you don't have to go as deep on each individual drop. Kind of repeating myself. Okay, time flies. When you recruit Loki, if you paid exactly the following number of recruit points for him, he gains that power for the rest of the game. So as a 5 drop, he becomes a schemer. The first time you play a plot twist each turn, you draw a card. I love that ability, by the way. On turn, if you pay him as a 6 drop, he's basically a Emma Frost, so you can force a player to discard their hand and draw that many cards, which hoses draw your deck strategies. Like, if you draw 15 cards and then you get mind gamed, you lose. I think Roland did that to me once. I think I drew like 22 cards in one turn, and then Roland played mind games on me the next turn, and it was like, okay, dude, you win. And 7, he gets Genius to draw a card. Um, those are fine. I'm not very impressed with this one. Like, he's okay. Uh, Genius on turn 7 is not that impressive. Like, you're gonna get maybe 1 or 2 draws out of him, if that. He's got to be face up. He's only gonna be an 8/8. Eh. Schemer, I think that's probably, if what you want from him is card draw, I think Schemer's the better of the two. You play him out on 5, you have some plot twists, and you turn those into more cards. The 6 cost one, what I do like about this is it's flexible in that you can generate card advantage for yourself, or you can drop a bomb on your opponent, and I think that's cool. I'm with that. Overall, though, I don't see this card seeing a ton of play outside of me playing Sylphie. I don't want to crap on this card because like there are things that I like about it. I think the flexibility. Gosh, hang on, excuse me. I think the flexibility is maybe a little hard for me to totally evaluate until I put him in some decks and see. Like, do I care about the mind games? Like, certainly if my opponent searched something out, playing mind games and forcing them to discard it. Like, if they searched, well, no, not this guy because he puts it straight into their row. But if I know they're holding a key card, mind games is really strong. But you're not locked into the mind games. You could also go one way or the other, but it's so late in the game. Generally speaking, by turn 6, the reason the 4 cost, I'm going to draw a blank on her name, the 4 cost mind games card is so popular is because it's turn 4. It makes a huge difference. So waiting until turn 6, sometimes that's just too late. sometimes there's just that it's just they've already gotten the resources, they've already gone through their hand, and the mind games makes them discard not the thing you needed to hit. Um, Genius, I'm not that impressed with. Schemer is a power that I generally like, but how many plot twists do you have in your deck? Are you building around that effect? Um, but the fact that if it was any one of those things, I would say not a good card. But because it's all of those things, I'm hesitating in the. I think there could be a world where the flexibility that this card possesses makes up for its overall kind of. It's not particularly weak in any one area, but it's not tremendously strong in any one area either. So to treat this card fairly, I think you have to emphasize how flexible it is and how it can do different. But none of the things are that impactful. I don't know. I don't think I like this guy. Yeah, I don't think I like this guy. I don't think he's good enough. I mean, I'm gonna put him in my Sylvie deck because I have to. But like, ugh. Yeah, I don't think he's good enough. Okay, let's look at six cost Sylvie. Now this one better blow me away. All right, 512 is a good start. 512 2. That is a massive defense value. Master Enchantress. So for blue, choose an enemy character to strike another enemy character. Do I get to choose both targets? I feel like I have to be able to choose both targets because if it was random, it would say. And I think if the opponent got to choose, it would say as well. So I actually choose two characters, and then one of them punches the other one. For a blue, that could be extremely good. That could be pay a blue, stun two guys. That off to a good start, Sylvie. Main phase, pay yellow, an enemy character. Choose an enemy character to be immobile and passive until your next turn. So passive, I believe, is can't strike and can't attack. Or maybe that's friendly. What is passive? Somebody in chat tell me what passive is. Immobile means they can't move. So it doesn't let you move the character though. So you'd have to have like if you want to get a guy with no range into the back row, you'd have to play like no you move, which is on team plot twist. Put that guy in the back row, then you pay the yellow, and now they're locked in the back row until next turn. So you could prevent an opponent from getting an important attack. You could bring something fragile up into the front and get two punches at it before they can tuck it back into the back and hide it, which is probably enough to clear most supporting characters and potentially win the game. Can this target enemy character? None of this stuff. I remember once upon a time, all the really strong abilities could only target supporting characters. And now everything is everything. Like, wow, this box is. Maybe it's because I haven't looked at versus cards for so long. Like, there haven't been like a lot of new ones that I'm just overwhelmed. Maybe the cards were always this good and I was just jaded. I don't think that's the case. Okay, but we're not done. That's only two of the powers on this card. Pay a green, put 3+1 counters on another character on your side. That's excellent. It's extremely strong power. We've seen the reverse of it with like the lightning bolt, putting 3-1 on counters for a single location. That's been good across a bunch of different characters. This is like a mini might makes right, but it only costs the green. It doesn't cost the whole card. It's very good. And remember, superpowers are limited to once per turn, but not the character. So if you have the appropriate locations, you could do all four of these in the same turn. You can't do any one of them more than once, but she can cost it can cast all this stuff. Red main these are all main phase. Red, Sylvie uses a main superpower with a one power symbol cost on another supporting character for free. Oh, Sylvie can use each power up to 4 times on your turn, choosing each part only once. Oh, so that. Well, why does that even need to be there? I don't understand. So the bottom line of text on this card is that Sylvie can use this power up to 4 times on your turn, choosing each part only once. I guess because each of the four superpowers are under the heading Master Enchantress. They just wanted to make sure this is just reminder text. This isn't new. This is literally what I just explained based on core game rules. Um, so yeah, as I would have expected, each different colored power counts as a different power, even though they have the same name, and she could use all four in a turn. So the drawback to this is if you don't have locations, if you're not running a deck that's got a bunch of ways to pay for powers in it, specifically for heroes, for her, she's just a 5/12. Now, uh, if your deck maybe doesn't run all four of these colors, maybe you only run one or two of them, that's probably still okay. I mean, one of the earliest decks that I had tournament success with in this game was using Sister Grimm, and that deck was the deck that I brought to that event was built entirely around the idea of using Sister Grimm's caffeine injection power, which puts 4+1 counters on a character once, and you can only use it once for the whole game. And I rode abusing that power, and Megan, I rode that to a tournament finish. So her ability to put 3+1 counters on a character, she comes out on turn six. Maybe you're gonna be able to use that like twice, six, seven. Maybe she sticks around until turn eight, so maybe three times. That's +9 value over three turns on your board. That's really strong, and that's one of her powers. This blue power could potentially act as pay one, remove two enemy characters. That's really good as well. Oh, Jason makes a good chat point in the chat. If you nullify Master Enchantress, she loses all of it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so if you can stop this one power, you stop all of her powers. Sure, but so uh, if you're using your nullifier to deal with my 6-drop Swiss Army knife, I think I feel pretty good about that overall. Um, I mean, that is something to keep in mind. I shouldn't be so glib. It's not so. That's a good point. That is an important point on how the character works because there are other characters who have multiple different superpowers and you would have to nullify each one individually. So I guess they made it so you can nullify everything she does and we'll call that balanced. I don't She's really good, man. I can't remember the last time I've gone through cards and been like, these are all so good that it might be unhealthy. These are all just so good. Okay, so we have a 9-drop. I like big cards. I cannot lie. So let's see what this 9-drop does. Alioth is a 17/8 with 3 health flyer. He can't have equipment, and during the build phase, you can pay a blue, a yellow, a green, and a red and remove each resource from the game. Okay, okay. SAG. 9 drops don't have to destroy resource rows. 9 drops can do other things other than break the game. I mean, I guess maybe not. I mean, this is the game that we have. When we play 9 drops, they destroy things. Yes, of course, this is good. Getting this guy out on 7 with Mobius is, or not Mobius, Zemo, is ridiculous. Yes, it's very expensive, but like, this is a game winning thing. Like if you go all in on this card, getting this guy out and using this power, unless your opponent has thoroughly outclassed you in terms of board control at the point when you use this, this is a game winning ability. But it's one of these annoying game winning abilities because you play it and the game is functionally over, but it's not technically over. So you have to like hobble through a couple more turns or whatever until you kill your opponent. Um, this is a card that first evil decks don't need at all. Yeah, this is another banger. Like all high cost cards, they probably won't see that much play. Like even decks that run 9 drops, a lot of times they don't run all four. So it will be almost by design fringe play because it's so expensive. But even if you don't get the power, you get to attack for 17 3 times. Like that can win the game, and it can fly. Yeah, that card's really good. Unaffiliated. I didn't point that out. Unaffiliated. That is a little bit of a drawback depending upon your deck construction. Unaffiliated characters. There's a lot of formats where they're not allowed to play, so something to keep in mind. He Who Remains. Founder of the TVA, you may pay up to 7 less or 7 more recruit points to recruit He Who Remains. If you do, he appears with that many -1 counters or +1 counters, respectively. That's awesome. So this guy could flex all the way down to a 2 drop and all the way up to uh, a 15 drop. Is this guy better than the Living Tribunal? Yes. I don't even have to read the powers. He's better than the Living Tribunal. Maintain the sacred timeline. At the end of your turn, you may choose a location. Turn each other location with that name on all sides face down. Yeah, that's really good. Maybe you sack one of your Lokes, but you pick off two, three of your opponents, and you don't have to pay for that. It's not a superpower. It's not thresholded in any kind of way. You could potentially play this guy on turn one. So from the very beginning of the game, this guy could come out with varying degrees. Like his stat, I don't care about his stats; they're completely irrelevant to me. You play this guy for the sacred timeline power, and you look for the situations where your opponent has multiple locations face up that you can turn one face down, and you can get a 1 for 2, a 1 for 3, and you just pay him for one. So I'll play my five. I'll underdrop a 4 drop on turn five, pay one to this guy, and then I nuke three of your locations. Yeah, I think this guy's going to see play. Wow. Wow. Okay, time stick. 2 cost, one of a kind, villain affiliated equipment. TVA standard issue. Can Ravona search for TVA equipment too? It has to have TVA in its. So, yes, because it says TVA in the power box. Wow. You may pay one less to play this equipment to a character that has TVA. Okay, so it's like the gun. What's the gun that's cheaper to play on soldiers or agents? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Prune stick. When equipped character strikes an enemy supporting character in melee combat, KO that enemy character if there's another character with that name on any side in any KO pile. So this gives you like a conditional lethal and nothing else. As an equipment, very unimpressed. Don't care about this at all. I don't think it's that good. But as a way to level up Loki, does Loki have a TVA power on turn one? He does not. Okay, so you could not play this to Loki uh, to get a turn one level up because he wouldn't get the discount. So it'd be as early as turn two though. Um, there are going to be situations. I think this is more of a Ravona tool and a Mobius tool than it is a Loki tool because of the way Ravona likes it because it says TVA. Mobius likes it because he's attacking your deck both with discard, your deck with mill and your hand with discard. This would feed into that. This activation does mean sometimes this is a pay to do nothing card for sure. I don't know if there's going to be abilities that you could equip this to a guy, declare an attack, and then your opponent can somehow remove a KO pile from the game mid combat. I don't think we have any effects that do that, so I don't think you can be caught by surprise. You're either going to know that this is going to work or it's not going to work when you go in with it. Um, Not super impressed. Like, it's one of a kind. There's a lot of kind of ifs and um, in the right. Okay, against a Sentinel deck. Uh, Strike, and you don't have to get the stun. You just strike, and they get KO'd. So yeah, this is an anti-Sentinel tool. That's where this really shines. Tempad, 1 cost, villain affiliated, one of a kind, TVA standard issue, so it costs one less to put on a character that has a TVA power. Time Door, you may pay one less or one more to recruit your first character each turn. Okay, so this gives the TVA personnel ability to basically every card in your deck. Your mileage may vary. If you're trying to do a deck that has sort of a thin character curve and you're relying on that TVA personnel type power to smooth that curve out, I can totally see how this would work, but it's only one of a kind, so you can't really rely on it. Seems like this might just be like a Ravona card, more or less. 3 cost Time Twister, one of a kind, TVA standard issue, and Time Loop. Any combat, pay a red, cancel the combat. Canceling combats is really good. This does it for just a red. Um, so you get this on Mobius, and it would only cost two. So potentially you could play Mobius for one, play this for two, and on turn three you have a character that if anybody attacks, you just pay a red and end the combat. Um, I definitely think Wasp deck would want to find a way to fit this into it. That fits in that character very well. Any deck that wants to cancel a lot of combats, uh, one of a kind holds it back. Out of the ones we've looked at so far, um, I think this is the most impactful in terms of game mechanics. Although this is probably the most versatile. And four cost, reset charge. So comparing these to like the cosmic cubes or the machines, so far I think these are overall as a set of equipment held back a little bit by how anemic the two cost one is. But let's keep moving forward. Four cost, reset charge, villain affiliated, one of a kind, TVA standard issue equipment. Disintegrate everything. Pay a blue, choose a resource on each side, then remove them from the game. Yeah, that could be really impactful. I think you might have to be a little careful with this because potentially it could be costing you two. Like you pay a blue, but then you have to remove something. Oh man, uh, I'm not super impressed with this TVA equipment suite. Um, I think the Time Twister probably is the one that's going to see the most use. The reset charge is going to have specific fringe play. The temp pad is going to fit very well in certain decks. I think the time stick is. I feel like it's almost useless. Maybe I'm underestimating how many cards Mobius can really like churn into the KO pile. Um, I guess it's any KO pile. So if I'm using my Loki and I put a bunch of cards in my KO pile, then I can use that to clip your big guys. Mm, I don't know. I'm pretty unimpressed with the time stick and overall that equipment suite compared to the. Maybe had I read those first, I would be more impressed. But compared to the rest of this box, they seem like kind of a weak point. The Conqueror, villain affiliated, one of a kind. Choose one of the following. Put two -1 counters on each character of that kind. Either Marvel Illustrated Universe cards, other illustrated universe cards, Marvel photographic, or other photographic. So it divides the entire card pool up into four different options, and you can put two -1 counters on each character out of those four different options. Uh, it's one of a kind. I mean, there's games where it's going to look really, really good because it's all characters, right? Yeah, so like you get this on turn one and you stun all the outriders. That's pretty good. Um, it's gonna be it really depends on the format. Like what's good in the format. Are there a high density of illustrated cards? Are there a high density of non-Marvel photographic cards? It's really going to come down to what the format looks like, how powerful this card is, and at the end of the day, it's two -1 counters on some number of characters. It's not bad, but I'm not really, especially being one of a kind and being kind of so boxed in how it works. Considering how flexible and powerful most of the rest of this box is, this will see play. This is going to be a decent card, probably, absolutely in the right meta. It could be devastating. I don't know how often we're going to live in that meta. I don't know. Overall, though, I think it's pretty good. Nexus event. So this is in Marvel Snap when they try to overcharge you for loot boxes. Resolve the combat. Oh god, it's Marvel affiliated. It's not even team stamped. Um, sorry guys, I'm a little exhausted. Winter break has worn me out. Don't mean to be on camera. Uh, yeah, this is really good. It's not so depending upon the situation you're in. This could either be better than or worse than Think Again. But this is basically a Think Again. It's definitely better in the sense that this can go into any Marvel deck. You don't have to have one specific team affiliation. It just has to be Marvel. So if you have a Marvel main character, this plot twist is just on for the whole game. Resolving the combat when you're in an advantageous position is really, really nice. This could definitely bait out plot in the same way that Think Again can bait out plot twists. Oh, I'm going to play the, I don't know, shock to the system, but they need to play two in order to actually avoid the attack, and you play this in between, so they totally waste one. Um, there's definitely situations where canceling the combat is better because if you attack and I have no way to make the combat advantageous for me, this does nothing in that situation, whereas Think Again would end the combat and that would be advantageous. So there is some nuance to how this plays, but overall this is between this and He's a Friend from Work and Last One. Photographic just has so many ways to make combat not go the way you think it's going to go. Uh, yeah, this card's really good. Time variance authority. TVA headquarters. Each player can play an additional resource on their turn as long as it's a location and there isn't already a location with that name on any side. I don't like that this works for both players, but maybe that's the only way to make it balanced. Um, yeah, if what you're trying to do is ramp to your win condition of nine drop, nine dropsies, um, that'll get you there. Yeah, that seems good. I think it's a little narrow. I think the TVA is going to be a little bit more narrow in its use cases than some of the other special locations we've got because there's certainly going to be games where if you give your opponent the ability to ramp, when does this go? When does this go on the stack? So like if I play this during my build phase, do I get to immediately play another location because this card text goes online right away? Or does my opponent get the benefit from it first? Um, okay, time variance authority allows players to play an extra resource on each of their turns as long as that extra resource is a location with a name that isn't already on any side. Okay. Uh, on the next player's turn, they could play any resource, including a face down card. Wait, hold on. You could, on the first turn of the game, play Time Variance Authority as your regular resource and then play a fortress as your additional resource. Yeah, so you get a benefit from it first. On the next player's turn, they can play any resource, and then another one, as long as they don't play a location that's already on the same side. You can play Time Variance Authority as your regular resource, so now there are two TVA headquarters happening, which means you can play up to two extra locations. I didn't realize that. Oh my god. Um, so I don't think this is a card you can throw in willy-nilly anywhere. Because there are going to be decks where if you give your opponent the ability to play extra resources, they will outpace you and they will play bigger things, and you're going to end up in a bad spot. So you do have to be measured in when and where you play this, and considering how much like resource destruction stuff there is in this box, in this stack of cards right here, um, you might want to be careful about playing extra resources down. Maybe there's an incentive to play a resource face down as your regular resource just so you can get out an extra TVA. Oh, so do you try to run locations that have weird names, like you run alien or predator locations, uh, so that your locations don't match the other players, so you can try to squeeze extra value out of it? Or do you run the standard academy training ground that everybody runs? I guess in photographic you have to. Well, no, because there's Buffy and there's X Files, so it's not Aliens and Predator. It's the Bronze and no, the X Files ones all have the same names. They just have X Files art. Okay, got myself distracted. My main point was: do you try to play locations with offbeat names because that forces your opponent to it prevents your opponent from blocking you playing your extra locations, or do you play kind of the standard locations so that way you know it's coming, you play this, you play the training ground, and now the opponent can't get that training ground down? I have no idea, but there's no way this isn't a good card. There's just it's impossible that this isn't going to be this is going to be the kind of card that some players are going to try to play, and it's going to be really frustrating because they're going to give their opponent the gas that that opponent uses to burn them to the ground. That's going to happen. And then there's going to be other players who have the savvy and the finesse to play this card and make sure their opponent gets almost no value out of it, and they're ramping up to turn 9 shenanigans on turn 6 or something. Um, well, so a while ago, I was talking about how excited I was about WandaVision, and Dave from the playtesters in the credits, I said that Loki was his favorite box. So I've been anxiously awaiting getting my hands on Loki and being able to see for myself, like, well, why is this his favorite? You know, no spoilers. I'm not. There's no NDA violations or anything. Just hey, this was my favorite. Um, I understand. I understand why this is your favorite. I genuinely don't feel like I am capable of performing the type of analysis that a lot of these cards demand off a first reading like this. There is so much going on in this box, and so much of it is wildly powerful and off the wall, so it's going to be difficult to learn how to play against it, which is really exciting to me. This is my favorite time in my favorite game, is when we get new cards and we have to solve new puzzles. Some of these puzzles are ridiculous. Oh, Ravona, yeah, I think there's enough TVA cards that like she's legit. Um, I don't know if you're gonna be able to say, I was talking about, oh, you'd have to have 14 locations to be able to play a Sylphie, a Loki, and a Mobius all in one turn. Sack them, take another turn, play them again, and take essentially three turns in a row. Maybe you can. I was being silly when I was saying that, but maybe you can. Wow. So what do we think of this year in Versus? Um, Obviously, we didn't get as many cards as we would have liked. We got announcements of some big stuff that's coming, but in terms of the cards that we actually got, uh, overall, nope, how they're all in the frame. Overall, I cannot complain about the quality of these boxes. In fact, I would go so far as to say getting these boxes, even this late in the year, like we went the whole year with no cards, these cards are so freaking cool that I'm excited about Versus. Like I never would if you would have told me in 2021 that next year we were going to get 355 card sets and that was going to be it, I would have said death of the game. There's no way the game survives that. Four, but again, this was a 2021 box. That's not true. I'm not more excited than I was last year for Symbiotes and Civil War. I am almost equally as excited as I was last year, where we got release after release after release, um, and great stuff. We got Spellcasters last year, which was amazing. We got that Civil War, like this new player introduction to the game, which is great cards and iconic settings and awesome characters. Symbiotes, literally my like favorite storyline from Spider-Man comics, like ever, the Maximum Carnage. We got so much good stuff last year. And I almost feel like we got a similar, obviously not quantity, but a similar amount of quality in just three boxes this year. I am so impressed with what Super Awesome Games was able to put in front of us. I'm really excited to play almost every card in all three of these boxes. And that's really cool. Yeah, there's a few I'm a little lukewarm on, but this Loki box in particular is completely bananas. I have a feeling some of these cards are going to make the cards we've complained about in past years look a little silly. Uh, I'm really legitimately worried about the tournament impact of missed minutes, not anything to do with the card, but like how this impacts running events and enforcing time limits and stuff. I'm genuinely concerned about that. It, but that's like whatever. Like we'll figure that out. That's fine. Like Super Awesome Games job, in my opinion, I mean, obviously I'm not the boss, but in my opinion, their job is to create exciting wild cards, and they have knocked it out of the park 3 times in a row this year. I am ecstatic with all of these cards. Yeah, I mean, and I can be excited and still have little criticisms. I'm not saying these are all perfect cards, uh, but considering the small number of cards that we got, that I'm sitting here going, hey, this was a good year for verses. That is a stunning achievement by Danny and Ben and Upper Deck to get so little cards in our hands, and for me to not be sitting here going, guys, we got to talk about the problem. We only got these many. I don't. I mean, yeah, it is still a problem. We want regular releases. We want to get back to what we were used to before COVID. 100%. But if there were going to be three, like if they knew, and I don't think they did, but if they knew they were only going to get to give us 3 sets this year, man, they chose 3 bangers to give us. I'm so excited to play versus. I, all right, it's been way longer than I thought it was going to be, but hey, this is my favorite game, and I can't think of a better way to end 2022 than to spend 2.5 hours with all of you talking about how much I'm excited to play with some new versus cards. Finally, finally. All right, till next time, go win some games.